Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna devotees, we've looked at most of chapter 14. Begins with Krishna explaining what the three modes are, how they interact, and also how they influence the Jivatma, spirit soul. And we went through quite an in-depth look at different areas where the three modes have influence, and the type of influence they have makes us behave in different ways. And the idea was of that survey was to advance ourselves from one mode to another. So if we're in ignorance, then try to go up to passion. If we're in passion, go up to goodness. And now Krishna is explaining how to transcend those three modes. And this is the most important aspect of this chapter. So I'd like to request somebody to read. Maybe Bhavani, we haven't read for a while. If
yeah, okay, I'll read.
Or Aruna.
Sorry, Prabhu, I had to move away.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. Can read.
Yeah, I'll read. 1 minute. Let me get my. I had to move away. Just let me set myself up. So, starting with which text? Sorry.
Text 19. Huh?
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Absolutely fine.
There's no echo from the other phone.
There's no echo here.
Okay, good. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text number 19. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work, then these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is the transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. Text 20. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Text 21. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior? And how does he transcend the modes of nature? Text 22. You want me to carry on?
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. Okay, text 22 to 25 altogether. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present or long for them, when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities, such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. Text 26. One who engages in full devotion service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Text 27. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Thank you.
Wonderful. So that's the end of chapter 14. Thank you very much, Kumarji. Chapter
Thank you.
Kijay, and the Sanskrit name is Gunatraya Purushottam Yoga. Now, if we look at it's the beginning of what we read, text 19. When one properly sees that in all activities, no other performer is at work other than these modes of nature. So that indicates to us again, where Krishna is saying that the soul doesn't actually do anything. It's the material nature, which is one of the critical factors which performs all of our material activities. So that's one point. And text 26, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, that one transcends the modes of material nature. So he's giving us how to transcend the modes of material nature. And then here, in 22 to 25, he gives a list of the qualities of such a person who has transcended the modes. And a little bit similar to chapter 12, we were reading about who is dear to Lord Krishna, those 8 verses. So those are very similar to the qualities that are described here. So although goodness is said to be the most progressive of the 3, it still implicates one in the law of karma. To become completely free of karmic reactions, one must transcend even the mode of goodness and become situated on the spiritual platform. That's our aim. At least if we reach the mode of goodness, there's a good chance to take the further step into the mode of pure goodness. This is only possible by engaging in bhakti yoga with unflinching determination, taking inspiration and support from those who already have transcended the 3 modes. Krishna explains the character of such perfected transcendentalists who enjoy nectar even in this life. So the lesson to learn is quite straightforward, but it's not so easy to put into practice. It's to understand that performing bhakti is above the 3 modes of material nature. So when we perform bhakti, what does bhakti mean? Chanting the holy names, remembering the Lord, reading about Him, talking about Him, offering Him food, taking His food, His prasad, associating with devotees, doing arti, puja, serving Him in different ways, becoming His friend, surrendering ourselves to Him, like that. It's all counted as bhakti. And here, just a slide to show how we can transcend the 3 modes. By pure devotional service, one can transcend and achieve this Brahman realization. That's the suggested solution. Transfer all consciousness to Krishna activities, called bhakti yoga, and not disturb our consciousness by activities of the 3 modes. All forms are equipotent. All forms of Krishna are omnipotent, omniscient, transcendental, and Satchid Ananda. Service to any of these forms is transcendental. That means incarnations of Krishna like Ram, Varaha, Nasingha, Vashuram, Ram, Kalki, like that. If one has a particular inclination towards any of these incarnations, one can follow that to the end, and one will achieve liberation from this material world. And the importance of service. Service is so important. Service with unflinching determination to any form helps to overcome the modes. Doing something, that's the whole idea. It's not just an exercise of lip service. It's actual service. And there's lots of service one can do. What is a qualification to serve? To be in Krishna consciousness implies acquiring qualitative equality with Krishna. Basically, there is no difference between us and Krishna in one sense, because in quality we are spirit and He's spirit. But He is the supreme spirit. We're a tiny spark of that supreme spirit. And qualification to serve is to become Brahman. To become Brahman implies to become free from material contamination. So if we do the devotional service, then we take a huge step to become eligible to transcend this world. And the individuality in the service, Bhakti Yoga means individuality is maintained eternally. It's not that once we achieve perfection, we merge with the Supreme Lord. Okay, some echo. Okay. I want to try the phone again. So just bear with me for a second. Just 1 second. Just find the right presentation. Okay, good. You see that? Okay. So this is the idea in terms of transcending the material modes. Krishna is giving the solution of how we can get over these three modes of material nature. And that's to perform bhakti yoga. Very important. Yeah. So any comments? Madhusudan Prabhu.
Yeah, hi, Haribol. Haribol Nabi. Haribol, Hare Krishna to everyone.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Last few sessions, we obviously spent quite a bit of time and understanding quite a breakdown of all the different categories. And try to understand three modes of material nature, where we would be, and then try to understand how these modes affect, or we are in one of those modes as well. So I like what Prabhupada says in this purport, which is obviously the text 19 that we read today, and that, one can transcend all activities of modes of material nature simply by understanding them properly, by learning from the proper soul. So, by learning about these, and the last few sessions were quite helpful in understanding those material modes of nature: goodness, ignorance, passion, and goodness and pure goodness. In the purport, actually Prabhupada says that although when it says that one's life can quite easily, be misdirected if we don't actually understand. But if we are in association with a bona fide spiritual master, the living entity can know his spiritual position, his material body, his senses, how he is entrapped, and how he is under the spell of material modes of nature. So quite in a way, we're quite helpless, because these modes of material nature take over. The living although it says in that text, it says the living entity is not the performer of different activities. If somebody reads that, then say, oh, I'm not the performer of all these activities, then who is? If I go and do some act, then, oh, I wasn't really the performer. And it doesn't become an excuse, to like, I accidentally stabbed him, but really I wasn't the performer. You can't get out of it in the law of court, because in the purport, Prabhupada said that, one is forced to act because he is situated in a particular type of body, conducted by particular modes of nature. So we are actually forced to act. Once we're in a particular type of body, whether it's a lion's body or cow's body, we're forced to act. And actions obviously will have reactions then. Every action has a reaction. So then we get bound in these reactions, actions, reactions, and then that is this modes of material nature controlling everything, lifetime after lifetime. So to become free from that, obviously, with the association of a spiritual master, we can understand the real spirit. Sometimes it's not easy to come across a bona fide spiritual master, unless, unless we sincerely desire, Krishna from within the heart will guide the living entity, and then you will some point in your life, maybe in lifetimes, who knows how many lifetimes, that you're fortunate to come across a bona fide spiritual master. If not, then ultimately in this purport is said, the real spiritual master is Krishna, and he is imparting this spiritual knowledge to Arjuna. So you kind of in your life end up coming across a Bhagavad Gita, or enter into some kind of a discourse or study course like this, that you're guided into it, and then from that you make advancement and slowly understand that these material modes of nature are going to bind me anyway. How to transcend, get into goodness, pure goodness. And then when we look at the example of what real renunciation is, for example, then you look at how Prabhupada renounced. He didn't renounce at a young age. He was involved in his business and his activities early on. He had a family life and all that. But he renounced at the right time, understanding that I am renouncing because I want to follow my spiritual master's order. Same thing with Guru Maharaj. He came to this country, he settled in South London, and then he had a desire. He wanted to follow his spiritual master as well and preach Sanatana Dharma. And then at the right time, he felt, I can renounce for a higher cause. Not that one renounces the activities and go and sit in a cave in the Himalayas and then pretend I'm renounced to everything. Then when the chance comes, he's back into the material nature. So this false renunciation is not. So we learn these kind of examples, also all the other qualities that we've discussed over the last, like for example, the food we eat, the habits we develop. And slowly, you'll find in our own life, we get the taste for all the things which are in the mode of goodness, and we start to lose the taste. You stop watching all these violent films and all that. I've stopped doing that now. And thinking, why am I watching this gory stuff and all that? And then you start to get into the mode of goodness, and your tastes change as well. So these obviously, like you said in this slide, text 26, the slide, shows quite clearly how it is by the association and developing qualities, and then the importance of service. Then you get it to the Brahman realization. And okay, thank you, Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing. Prabhu. That was good. Any questions, any comments, anything you'd like to ask, Laniben?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes. I've never understood the Brahman realization. I mean, is it, it's not the impersonal form of Brahma Jyoti. Does it mean that? I don't know.
It basically means understanding that we are the same as the Supreme Lord in quality, but not in quantity. So this Brahman realization is basically that realization that we are spirit soul. That's the platform which, when we perform bhakti yoga initially, it will take us above the three modes of material nation and place us at the level of consciousness that we are spirit. That's Brahman realization. And then as we perform more bhakti, we come to the point of realizing the Paramatma who is situated right next to us. And then as we go further, we will realize that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead who has a personality, who's an individual. Although we are like him, he is the Supreme Master and we are his servant. And we do everything for his pleasure. So this Brahman realization, some people will explain it to be the impersonal Brahman, but that's not the ultimate reality of the Supreme Lord. That's one of them. There's three aspects to Godhead.
Yes.
One is the Brahman realization that you could say he is impersonal, the light coming from the Lord. Then there's the Paramatma realization that he extends himself into every living entity, but he is not reduced in any way. And then the third, final, the source of everything, even the Brahman realization, which is what Krishna says actually, which is amazing. He says it himself. If you look at 14:27, I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. He says, Brahmano hi pratisthaha, which is immortal, imperishable, eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. But he's basically saying, I, that's Krishna, is the basis of that impersonal Brahman. So it comes from him. So ultimately, that is the perfect realization to have of the Lord, that he's not impersonal, and he's even beyond the Paramatma. And we can have a loving relationship with him. Does that make sense, Nariman?
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Very important question. It also shows me that you've got a good understanding, because not everybody would be able to ask that sort of question. So thank you for that. Really good.
Very good.
Anybody else? Okay, in that case, let's shift on to chapter 15. So just give me a second to get my act together.